and I think you said it was a legally trivial issue or obvious issue, but nonetheless, the court could reverse it.
Yeah, I mean, in light of precedent, going back actually to the New Deal court, to the Roosevelt court, there's really no question that the health care plan is an ordinary piece of legislation that affects interstate commerce extremely directly. I mean, the healthcare industry is, multi-trillion-dollar industry. Nothing could affect interstate commerce more directly. But very cleverly, the legal arguments being made to strike down the healthcare plan take the form of combining, in a very 1920s sort of way, the idea that the Congress has overstepped its power with the idea that there's an individual liberty interest. So what's the liberty interest? The argument is that the liberty interest is not to be compelled to have health care. Now again, legally not a great argument in traditional terms because, you have to pay taxes. You don't want to do that, or most people don't. But so you can be compelled to do things under the law all the time and penalized for not doing them. So I don't think it's a very legally powerful argument. But by combining the argument for private property with the argument for individual liberties, some lower courts have been willing to adopt that argument in a way that makes the argument seem more colorable. And there could well be 4 votes for that on the Supreme Court. The question is, would Justice Kennedy actually go in that direction? And that's a hard one for him because he actually cares profoundly about individual liberty. Arguments that are most powerful to him are arguments about individual liberty, followed closely by his love of the federal system and his idea that the federal government shouldn't overstep its bounds. So there are some really great issues for Justice Kennedy there. That said, Justice Kennedy does not like, I think it's fair to say, to be on the wrong side of history. And it's a little hard for him to know what the right side of history is here. So one of the reasons it's interesting to watch the kind of theater, for me, to watch the theater of the quote-unquote repeal discussion, is for what it is saying to Justice Kennedy about what the national mood is about the health care plan. And I find it hard to picture Justice Kennedy striking down a plan that was popular. But if a plan were not terribly popular, and individual liberty were at stake, and the federal government's power were at stake, and it would be a case that would be discussed and read for generations to come, and not terribly unpopular, that is, I just described Lawrence v. Texas, the gay rights case, but in the other side.
So a legally obvious issue, but nonetheless one that could turn the other way 5-4.